Match 34. We are getting into the second half of the IPL. This is MPL presents Cricbuzz Live, and it's Mumbai versus Delhi. Mumbai Indians versus Delhi Capitals. Now, when they play the Ranji Trophy, Mumbai versus Delhi is always a big thing, isn't it? Ajay Jadeja knows all about it. He pretended to be Haryana, but he was actually Delhi. But Mumbai versus Delhi was always this... I'm not quite sure it's like that with Mumbai Indians and Delhi Capitals, but because of where they are on the points table, one of them will go into second place, one will get 12. Delhi Capitals are on a roll. Mumbai Indians want to win away. Delhi are playing on a slow surface when their strength is pace. So there's so much to talk about in this MI versus DC game. Michael Vaughan is here alongside us. So is Ajay Jadeja. Is it your last day with us?
It is, yeah. I've got to get back. Got to get back to the cold. I have to say, it's been very nice. It's been lovely and warm. You've looked after me great. But yeah, I've got to get back to the UK. World Cup preparation time. And I'm not in the squad. I mean, I was a bit disappointed with that, but yeah, I've got to get back to the UK.
And you've been taking your little fellow to play cricket in India?
Yeah, he's been. Yeah, I mean, there's an academy here, and my little boy's 13, and he's just been joining in with the local players and the Oval Maidan, I think the Islam Gymkhana ground. Yeah, so he's been like 3 or 4 hours a day, sweating, very hot for him.
I'll tell you what,
lots of spinners.
You should have organized a coaching session with the gentleman next to you, because he'd have told you a thing or two about being 13, 14 years old and playing cricket in India.
But that's a good time to be at the Oval Maidan, because that's where most cricketers who, at least in my generation, if you were even from where I come from, Jamnagar, actually I'd come on a tour with a team from there. We'd spend a month in a dormitory out there, and then you'd play a match on a different ground every day. And lovely places to eat just outside. Has he had some vada paos there?
No, he stayed away from that kind of stuff. But it's the first time I brought my. I've got 2 daughters as well, and my wife, and we all came. And it's the first time that the girls have been to India, and they've absolutely loved it. A swimming pool. I mean, the 8-year-old, all she needs is a swimming pool. She's had a swimming pool dived in. She doesn't really care where she is, but they've absolutely loved being here, travelling around, seeing some different sites. It's been fantastic.
It was also 11 years ago to the day that the IPL started. I mean, we were all there. I was there in Bangalore. We had no idea. Anyone tells you that they knew something dramatic was happening that day, they're lying. We had no idea what lay ahead. We just said, right, let's see what happens. And then, of course, Brendan McCullum went out to bat, and we said, wow, this is something else. Brendan McCullum's 158 remains one of the defining moments of the IPL. Maybe the biggest moment in the IPL. Let's ask these 2 gentlemen. You've been watching from afar. You've been watching from a little closer. 11 years of the IPL. Ajay, for you, what has it meant, the IPL coming to India?
Many things, and I think one of the most significant changes that I saw with Indian cricket was when Sourav Ganguly was left out by the Kolkata Knight Riders. I grew up in a country loving cricket in a different way, where your past heroes were never treated, not saying rightly or wrongly, but we've always treated our heroes, or when they are weaning away or they're not at their best, you treat them in a certain way. That was the first time I saw an Indian, legend, or one of India's finest captains.
Not picked in an auction.
Not just picked in released, and not just released from playing, but released from even his intelligence of the game, not kept in the dugout or in any other capacity. So for me, I think IPL's done that. And on the other side, the players have got the freedom now. In olden days, you had to be waiting for the association to pick you. Even if you were good enough, sometimes you would be left out. But I think now the cricketers probably feel confident enough that if they're good enough cricketers, there'll be a franchisee looking for them and actually bidding for them and wanting them to play for that team. So these are the 2 main big differences apart from the other many that we've had.
It's changed a lot of families in Indian cricket. I mean, as you said, a lot of them were subservient. The state associations, you relied on match fees. You hoped you would play for India. And really, the arc lights were available for 20 players, 22 players, really not more. And all of a sudden, here you are, the budgets are larger. Lots of families have changed, Indian and overseas. Lots of families have had their fortunes changed since the IPL started. Now, IPL started, England looked at it differently. You were in England at the time. You're one of the rare Englishmen in that you look around the world and you're open to new trends.
Oh, I don't know. I was the England captain when it came about, and I was very open to it. I realised that the passion for cricket in India was so great that it was always going to be a success. And I remember, I think it was 2008 that I went to it was around the time that England had done a deal with Alan Stanford.
Yes.
And Alan Stanford was going to produce this one game a year, and it was going to be $1 million a player. 12 players were going to earn potentially $1 million every year. And, we looked at that, and the players were like, oh, this is a one-off opportunity. But the board went into bed with Alan Standard and didn't buy into the IPL. There was a few board members that said, oh, it'd be a flash in the pan, that'll disappear, that 2020 rubbish, that's not going to last. But we'll go into bed with Alan Standard because of guaranteed income. It was one of the biggest mistakes the ECB made. And I'll say that going back to 2008, 9, 10, that's when Kevin Peterson was desperate to come and play here, as he rightfully should have been. When you're that quality of a player, Freddie Flintoff,
yes.
They should have been allowed to come and play on a more regular basis, as should many of the other England players. And, it's taken a long period of time for people to realise in the UK, actually, this tournament is, people say, oh, you only want to go to India because of the money. No, actually, you look at some of the players that have been here that have improved. When players come here and they're mixing it in the dressing room with the greatest players in the world and some of the best ex-players as your coaches, you can't help but get better. So from the last World Cup in 2015, where England were a disaster, the whole remit of, let's take white ball cricket a bit more seriously than the UK, and players were sent to the leagues around the world, this one in particular, the Big Bash, Bangladesh, Pakistan. All right, they've got a group of players that have committed to playing white ball cricket more so, but I think opening up avenues for them to go and learn off different styles of cultures, different styles of players, different styles of coaching. I think it took England 6 or 7 years to realise that it wasn't just money here. It was actually a great product, an incredible razzmatazz, an unbelievable buzz when you're here. And finally, I'm delighted that England, I don't say they're fully in bed with it. I don't think it's a full arrangement at the minute, but I hope in time that players that are the quality that can come here and demand a big fee or any fee should be able to play a long period of the IPL.
To me, that was one of the big parts of the IPL, that players could learn from each other. I mean, I saw the impact in the very first year of the Mumbai Indians that someone like Sean Pollock had on, say, someone like a Dhaval Kulkarni, for example. Just a kid, very shy. Someone had to say, it's okay to talk to Sean Pollock, it's okay. And they would go almost, should I not? And the amount of time Pollock had for these young players. And that was true across different franchises as well. But on the playing side itself, is there anything to match Brendan McCullum's 158? They just told us this can stand. But I thought a few others. Virat Kohli had 950 runs. We thought 400 plus was a good score for a season in an IPL. 400 plus, Raina did that every year. 500, wow, you got 700 one year with Gale. And he almost made 1,000 runs with 400s. To me, what changed was A.B. de Villiers taking on Dale Steyn. Steyn was bowling 145 plus, and A.B. de Villiers is playing this shot once, he's playing this shot once, he's going down on one knee and hitting over square leg. I don't know if you saw that passage of play, but that told me, wow, is this possible? They're hitting the ball to places we never thought was hittable.
Yeah, that was something special. I mean, but don't think it's just the IPL, that's the format of this game. That 20 overs has allowed players to play like that, because you still play with 6 and 7 batsmen, which you have for 50 overs. So your risk-taking ability goes higher. Yeah. And there is a lot more that you can plan, because with 2020, if somebody's bowled 2 overs, you're only left with 2. So the planning, the way people approach the game has changed. And that year of Virat Kohli was something special. I just haven't seen that being repeated. The years before that, Virat Kohli was a different player. I mean, he's as good a player in the world that you've seen. But the strike rate and the impact that he was having was just that year and the year after that. We've had 2 years after that. He's gone back to the old Virat Kohli of scoring the number of runs rather than having that.
But I think that's what, particularly the IPL highlights, is that, we're so used to watching international cricket where, Virat Kohli, Jasprit Bumrah are in the same team. They'll net together, but they don't have that competitive edge together. But to have Jasprit Bumrah bowling to Virat Kohli, I think that's, you've got England, Jofra Archer bowling to some England players. You've got Josh Butler facing England players. And I like that competition. So when they go back to play for their own home countries, they've played against each other. So you actually learn a bit more about each other. And then when you go in the dressing room, you say, do you realise when you bowl that slow ball, you just do something a little bit, I can see it. So you can actually teach each other by playing against each other. And I think that's why the standard of cricket is just going like this.
That's exactly what he referred to when he talked about Delhi versus Mumbai. If we were back to our olden format that we used to play, Kohli would have been playing for Delhi and Bumrah would have been playing for Mumbai. I think it's the sport is still the same. It's the view, the way people, how they look at it and make it look even more interesting has changed. Yeah. Because If you didn't have IPL, you'd still have a game between Virat Kohli and Jasprit Bumrah, but nobody would go and watch it. And so people were not being able to enjoy what was there in this sport. And the IPL and the broadcasting and all that has made that happen. And it's, enhanced the whole... it's the same game. I mean, we still have, 7 players in every team. It's a domestic tournament. It's the highlight of these international players, but it's the quality of Indian players that has been...
And it allowed a lot of young Indian players to play on the big stage. My final point on 11 years of the IPL, at that auction, you suddenly, all of India, all of the cricket-loving India was taken aback to see players being bought and sold at an auction. I remember Yuvraj Singh came to Mumbai for the Kings 11 and was booed. And he was bristling with anger, saying, I'm an India player too. Without realizing still that for those 6 weeks, he wasn't an India player, he was a Kings 11 player. And then to see Dhoni and CSK and the great emotional return of CSK, just some of the big highlights. But if Brendan McCullum hadn't played that innings, things would have been different. Now, yeah.
I was just going to say that, Harsha, that the biggest plus for the IPL has been India. Because if you mentioned all the younger players mixing it, I've mentioned some of the overseas players mixing it with some of the great coaches and players, but the amount of Indian players, young Indian players that get the opportunity to go into that dress room and just mingle with legends and just see how a legend prepares, how a legend trains, the fitness levels, the dedication, the sacrifices that these players make for young Indian players to be in those dressing rooms going, oh, right, I can see that now. I better maybe change one or two things that I'm doing. Because when you're young, you don't know. You're just kind of looking at players in the dressing room, oh, can I pick a bit off that one and that one and that one? You're trying to look at Sachin, go, can I be him? And, try and just get something from every single player and put it into your own game. And I think for India, it's just been
one of the biggest eye-openers for the young Mumbai Indians players was when Ponting dropped himself. After 6 games, Ponting dropped himself. Game 7, he put on the bib and was walking around the boundary rope with Gatorade or whatever the drinks were in his hand. And these guys were almost too scared. They said, Ponting, no, can I take a drink from Ponting? I said, but he can do that. So the IPL brought a lot of people together. It was fantastic, and it's going really strong in its 12th year. And today, guess what? Delhi Capitals, a team that you wonder, even in its earlier incarnation, Delhi Daredevils, will they ever win anything? Mumbai Indians, 3 times winners, head-to-head. They're almost close. It's 12-11, in fact, isn't it? So Delhi have always done well against Mumbai in the IPL, even though the teams have had such differing fortunes. What do you make of the track itself?
I think it should be different.
Because the last time they played, I think they made 129 in 20 overs.
Yeah. I mean, that is a reflection of the wicket as well and what they played on that particular day. But today would be different. We've had totally different weather. I had 3 days in Delhi.
A bit cold.
It'll be nice and cool. Not cold. But it'll be nice and cool because, normally it dries up. So if we haven't had the sun out, we had 3 days of rain. I don't know about what happened yesterday, but the temperature still looks much cooler. And
if raining yesterday too.
And everybody around the world knows, when does a wicket break down? When the sun bakes it down. So the sun hasn't broken?
Doesn't matter. Baked it down.
Baked. So, I think it'll probably be a better batting pitch than we've seen in this tournament.
But it's interesting that I think Rohit Sharma has read it that way, because Rohit Sharma has not only won the toss, but he's chosen to bat first, thinking it'll deteriorate second, and they've picked the extra spinner in the side. We can look at those two sides now as well, because they've picked Jayant Yadav. Out of the blue. They traded him at the start of the year in an almost unheard trade. No one knew about it. Quietly, there was a trade that happened, and Jayant Yadav is being picked. So they've got Malinga, Bumrah, and Hardik. A few overs from Ben Cutting, maybe if required, but spin from Yadav, Chahar, and Krunal Pandya. Do you see spin being used a lot today?
I probably see spin being used in the power play more today, because Jayant Yadav, if he's playing, he bowls it slower. Not ideally, I think so. Maybe because of Shikhar Dhawan, he seems to be the responsible guy unless you get him out, because the others are just playing freely. So maybe that's a thought that they've gone in, and they don't think the seamers will do well. Barrendorf's been left out,
yes.
So they've just added to their batting, which I don't think they need to add. I love Ben Cutting in that side. I'd like to see him more often.
He's got some power in that middle order now.
They've got so much.
Kieran Pollard cutting.
There's a lot of power. I only hope they don't use up all the early overs and leave them with little to do.
Yeah.
Right, so that's what it is now. The Delhi Capitals themselves. That's the interesting one, because Shreyas Iyer said at the toss that you're batting first. What is it? It surprised me. It's a good call that you've taken. Maybe they.
I like
they
a bit of
wanted it that
honesty
way.
from the skipper there.
Yeah.
He's just praising his counterpart in making a good decision. You know, I like the look of this team. I just think it's got a bit of everything. It's got some nice youth. It's got some experience. Shikadawan at the top, as Ajay said, he just plays around and just knocks around. He's found form in the last couple of games, and that's a must for the Delhi Capitals. For them to go all the way, you feel that Shikha will have to be really consistent, and then all the flamboyancy can come from the other players. But they've got great combinations with the ball. You know, I've liked Ishant Sharma taking that first over. He's running hard. That's definitely a Ricky Ponting objective, that he likes the first. Very rarely in Ricky Ponting's reign as a coach in 2020 cricket does the first over get bowled by a spinner. He loves the first over being bowled by a seamer, and he tells either to swing or run in and hit the pitch.
And of course, the young Ishant Sharma bowled that over against Ricky Ponting.
And he generally only bowls well when he sees Ricky Ponting at the other.
Take Ricky out with you.
Because his confidence has come back as soon as Ricky's come into that side. I mean, he's bowling brilliantly.
Now you can make your own team as well, can't you? This is MPL. Create your own super team on MPL. So download the app, the superteam.live. Then select a game, and just get on, join a contest, and start playing. There's many games there. It's not just the one that, just not a fantasy league. There's so many other games that you can play there. There's many games to look forward to within the overall encounter there. And it's something I wanted to ask both these gentlemen who've seen highs and lows in their playing career as well. Ajay, when you were a young man, say you are Rishabh Pant today, and you're so excited about the World Cup, you're thinking, right, I'm going to be there, I'm going to the World Cup, and there you are, you're hearing the announcement, and you're saying, no, it's not me, and now you're coming out to play for Delhi Capitals.
Look, it'll be an interesting day. I mean, knowing Rishabh Pant, and it's not the first time. I mean, yes, this is what public is seeing, because I remember being in Delhi only for 4 days when I was, coach there. In that team, there were people who didn't want him, and he wasn't picked. And he was around with that under-19 team. And I said, Rishabh, don't worry, you've not been picked, but why don't you come to the nets? So he turned around to me and said, Paji, jab jarurat padegi na, khud hi bulayenge. Sorry, basically he says, when they need me, they'll call me from home. Don't worry, I don't want to come to the nets. He's that kind of a guy. And I think you'd probably see the best of him now. He might, blow it up one day. It might just, and he does it even before he wasn't picked. He's too good a player to have been left out, and leave that aside.
Would he be thinking, right, you haven't picked me, it's a provisional squad, let me just make so many runs that you've got no choice?
That's exactly what I'd be saying. That's to create some noise.
Yeah. He will.
And that's exactly what I say to all players that get left out. Don't let it go silent. And the only reason it'll go silent if you don't perform. If you perform and go and get a 50, or you smash an 80 off 30 balls, the noise will travel. And you've got to remember, they're only preliminary squads. All squads that are picked now, we're all making a song and dance about the World Cup. They can be changed on May the 22nd.
Correct.
So you go and get 100, 100, 100. You go into the UK as a backup anyway. You've named as a backup. Now, if you go 100, 100, 100, the noise gets so much that people go, wait a minute, surely you should be back in the squad. So there's still an opportunity. Doesn't look likely, but whenever there's an opportunity, I would always say try and create noise.
Ricky Ponting said he'll play 3 or 4 World Cups.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about 3 or 4 World Cups, but he's made enough noise, like he says. It's got nothing to do with whether he's good enough or not. I don't see it that way. He's been your first wicket keeper. We've had chairman of selectors talking about wicket keeping. You've played him in the test matches ahead of everybody. He scored test hundreds in England and in Australia, and not at a pace that Cheteshwar Pujara does. I can understand, you can differentiate that. This man is born in the era of limited overs version. His strength is this. So there is no way that he's been left out for the lack of skills. There is something else. Maybe the team management doesn't want a player like that, or you don't need him, because he's made enough noise. And
he's been laughing. Michael's been laughing ever since he heard that India haven't picked Rishabh Pant.
No, because it is a no-brainer. If Rishabh Pant is playing, I can understand tomorrow he's not picked for a test match, in spite of scoring those runs, and because he might not be keeping well or something. You not taking Rishabh Pant to the World Cup of 50-50, whereas he's been to England last year, he wasn't your first player, then he ends up becoming the player. He plays your test match cricket, and he's been scoring runs everywhere.
He's spot on.
You haven't played him in one-day cricket because it's your problem. He's capable of playing. He's not a kid. He's been playing cricket for a while now.
Rishabh was born into the right era. He's a young chap, and the T20 game, the T10 game, 50-over cricket, just see ball, whack the ball. All right, he's going to make mistakes, but he was born in the right era. And I look at the Indian squad, I think they've picked a couple of players from the old days, if you know what I mean. It's an old school style of player, whereas Rishabh is the modern player. He is exactly what the opposing teams least like to face.
And mostly when you get left out in India, all I have to say is, don't worry. I think probably something's better ahead of you, because this is the same country. At the end of this World Cup, if you don't have a good World Cup, suddenly you might say, "Oh, change the captain, change the coach."
Rishabh, skipper.
No, I'm not saying. But that's what happens with us at every World Cup. We plan everybody who plans Indian cricket started planning 4 years ago, saying MS Dhoni will not be the captain, he won't be around, let's change the captain. MS Dhoni is still around. Yeah. Then you said Ambati Raidu should not play, he won't be around next year. You didn't play him till the last 6 months. Last 6 months you said he was my main player. That is why when I had picked my World Cup 11 here, when everybody talks about it, it was 2 months ago. Indian cricket changes overnight. Rishabh Pant will be around for a very long time. He will be discussed for sure, I can tell you. Either it will be something brilliant he's doing, or he'll be doing something stupid. But he won't go unnoticed ever.
Put him in at 4. It's all the greater. Put him in at 4. Change your squad. You need a left-hander in the middle.
Now, a couple of the guys would be celebrating. Hardik Pandya's had a good tournament, and he's fit and ready to play again. So he's had a good tournament. As Michael said, there's a lot of firepower down that Mumbai Indians batting lineup now, with Hardik Pandya, with Kieron Pollard, now with Ben Cutting. Ishan Kishan not there today, but the other day he at 21 of 9. So let's see what he's been up to this year. He's not gone and made the 70s or 80s. Look at the rightmost column. This is what Hardik Pandya's done this season. So is there almost a temptation to say only give him 20 balls to play? Or who knows, if he played 40, what would he do?
Well, the remarkable thing is, of 5 of those innings, he's been not out on 4 occasions.
Yes.
So you're look at the strike rates: 228, 163, 31 off 19, 312, 254, 231. If you're hitting it at that strike rate, you're generally taking huge risks. He's ending up not out at the end. It's his technique where he goes over to this offside, goes right outside, right back on the off stump, almost like treading down the off stump, and he says to the bowler, right, try and aim for my stumps, and he's going to try and clean it over wide long on. But where he's got a huge amount of skill and hand speed, as soon as the ball and right flair goes wider, tries to bowl just inside the guideline, outside off stump, and he's got the speed of hands just to flick the ball. He hit a 6 over third man at 1K. All right, it's a nice ground for it. It's quite short on the pitch. He's got a bit of pace, but the hand speed to be able to release it over point and then hit one over extra cover. So his range is pretty much, I wouldn't say it's 360 because he don't go for the fancy flicks. Yeah. He just goes for the power. But I would say he's certainly got 270. Yeah, 270 degrees of the ground covered with power.
Where would you bat him? Would you only bat him as a finisher, as those numbers suggest, or would you bat him early?
Look, if I was using him, probably use him like that. But if you're looking to make him a better player, he's got to play 60 balls at least 3-4 times to figure out whether he can do this. Yeah. He won't be able to do this, and he shouldn't. And it's not possible because, like Michael said very rightly, he takes a lot of risk. And you don't do that at the top. But what it can do to the opposition is when you send him in, and if he's smart enough, you will get 100% strike rate for sure. And if he's smart enough, then he can become a better player. I would bat him at 3, and I think we had the chat here. Last time I met him, I said, why don't you go to the owners and say, let me bat once at 3. Once at least, get in there, at least on a Mumbai wicket. Get in there, and then we'll see whether he can do it or not. Because it's unfair to, look at a player and say, look, he can't do this.
What I liked about that was when you said, why don't you go to the owners, not the coach?
There's a big change in the IPL. There's a big change in the IPL.
Listen, not just with the IPL. Even our Indian team coach has been gagged to talk about the team that he's taking to India. Forget about what you say. Game has changed. We've got to move on. We haven't heard from the Indian captain. We've heard from every expert in this country. We haven't heard from the Indian coach whether they are happy with this team or not. So I think that's how it runs, and so I just see it, observe it.
The only thing, Ravi said he wanted 16. Actually, even I thought for a big tournament, 16 was probably better.
But what about the 15 that you have?
Correct.
Forget about the 16, whether you can have extra or not. Are you happy with this 15
you
or not?
You could take Rishabh at the 16th. There you go.
So whoever, I'm saying, I believe it's the captain and coach's team. I always look at it and I say you've got to, at least in India, you've got to give it the captain first and then you make the team. Maybe, I don't know how it's in England, whether you pick the best players and then pick a captain. But in India, India, Pakistan, our cultures are different. You got to give it to the captain. Look at our politics as well. It's only the captains we talk about.
Dare I say that Ajay Jadeja straddled both worlds as a child with a father in politics and a bat in his hand, so he knows what he's talking about. Okay, now why is this game important? Because both teams are 5-3, both are on 10. The winner goes second. Who knows if CSK have another terrible match like they did last night, then who knows? They might be in shouting distance. Another win, they get up to 14. So the team that wins today goes to second place. Also, when you get to 12, you start thinking you're on your home stretch. You know, I need to get to 16. I'm almost there. I'm on my home stretch. Now, since you know wickets, that kind of wicket better, what is good score and what do you think Mumbai Indians will get? We want to see if you'll be on the super couch today.
Oh, I don't know about the super couch.
See, the man next to you has been on the MPL Super Couch very often.
Yeah, I had a day where I had a day where, apart from that one day, I've been atrocious.
What do you think? Come on.
I think it's a better wicket. You will need 180 today. Nothing less than that should,
Okay, so you think 182,
because I feel the wicket's going to be.
I mean, when Gaurav sits here, he just goes 182 irrespective of the wicket. And he's always saying they'll make 182. So do you want to go 182?
Oh, you mean for the couch?
Yeah, for the couch.
Mumbai's batting.
Mumbai batting.
I support Mumbai. I want them to get 190 plus. So 191.
You support Mumbai?
Oh, I love Mumbai
Why?
and Chennai.
Why?
For Tendulkar, Mumbai.
You live in Delhi.
Look, I support Tendulkar and I support Dhoni. I like their style.
What about the teams? What about the Capitals, the Daredevils, where you live?
When I see them play in a way for more than 3, 4, 5 years, and they stick to somebody, then you support a team. The individuals are changing overnight, so I'm just supporting individuals.
Okay, you're 191.
190. I'll go 177. That's got you thinking, hasn't it?
No, I'm just thinking that with 190 and 177, my only chance of being on that couch is 165 or 210. So I'll go 165.
Absolutely right.
Okay, now, I hope you enjoyed that discussion. We covered quite a bit in that half. It is MI versus DC today. Every time I hear DC, I go, Delhi Capitals. Right, here's a joy factor question then. Let's see if you can get this joy factor. Okay, only one player has set a record in the very last test he played, though that record was broken within 3 months by a much more famous player at the Headingley Cricket Ground. So you've got to figure out which player set a record in the last test match that he played at the Headingley Cricket Ground. Who was this? What record did he set? Talking of Headingley and cricket grounds, he's thinking, was it you?
I don't think I set any record.
Okay, there you are. Just remember to send in your replies with the hashtag CricBuzzLive, and we'll of course come back to you when we at the 10 over mark rather with CricBuzz Combox. See you then.